How does Matt Ryan's injury affect the rest of the Falcons' skill players? Is Austin Eckler officially the Chargers running back to start going forward? And who is the best wideout in Cleveland? Plus, the second-place team owner in the 2019 Footballguys Players Championship, Rob Pfersich, drops by to talk about a new/old running back to roster in the NFC East and much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
If you got what it takes, 'cause I'm KRS and I'm on the mic.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
With the master rhymer, that's the lead behind the video rapper. You know the top rhymer, tapper.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Greetings and salutations. Thanks a lot to Dave Gerzak there, the Dizzle. Greetings to all the Bulkaholics and Gerzak fanatics listening. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I am, of course, your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and the disembodied voice you just heard is my co-host, the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Coming up on tonight's show, how do you outsmart the Cardinals brass? Thought on the Arizona backfield, and Rob Pfersich, the Week 7 Footballguys second-place team owner, drops in to talk about some tough start-sits in the Buffalo-Philly game and much more. I normally never bring up baseball or basketball on the show tonight.
Good, moving on.
You don't want to? You want to hear a good story here?
We'll see. Well, go ahead.
All right. So the night of the World Series, it started on Tuesday night, Dizzle. And I said to my son and daughter, I said,
it's the Nats and the Astros.
I said, who do you guys think is going to win the World Series? By the way, my kids are 6 years old and 4 years old. I said, who do you think is going to win the World Series? Who are they playing? Or who's playing in it? I said, the Washington Nationals and the Houston Astros. Well, Daddy, who do you want to win? I said, I don't care. They said, you got to pick somebody. Who are you pulling for? I said, I guess the Nationals. Okay, we think the Nationals are going to win. Okay, I said, in how many games? They said 12. I said, no, it's the first 1 to 4 wins. And they said, well, then Nationals in 7. And they both agreed, Nationals in 7. Nationals are up 2-0 in the series. Pretty smart kids, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we fast forward to NBA opening night for the Eastern Conference champions runners-up last year, the Milwaukee Bucks. They opened their season against the Houston Rockets last night. And I said to them, who's going to win, Bucks or Rockets? Well, who do you want to win? I said the Bucks. They said the Bucks are going to win, even though they're 1.5 underdogs, right? My son said they were going to win by 10. My daughter heard that. She said they're going to win by 7. And my son said, no, they're going to win by 10. And my daughter said, I think they're going to win by 7.
Yeah.
They won by 6 as an underdog on the road against Harden and Westbrook.
All right.
So my daughter, if you want, tweet me at Eric Balkman. I'll tell you whatever picks you want to know.
Leroy's going to be doing that.
That's exactly what I said. And then I said, oh, how many games are they going to win this year? And I said, they play 82. And my son said, I think they win 7 this year. My daughter said, nah, they win 6. I said, guys, they won 60 last year, okay? And then my son says, okay, they'll win 82. I'm like,
that's great.
Yeah, and then my daughter said,
sounds like a mathematician.
No, here's the worst part. My daughter said, they're going to win 100. I'm
nice.
like, they play 82. So I don't know what to believe. I don't know if they're geniuses. I don't know if they're totally out of it.
What the genius is.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. We're here to talk fantasy football tonight. Hey, I don't know if you guys saw it. Rotoviz.com/podcast had the latest high-stakes lowdown posted this past Thursday morning. Kevin Williamson, the Bourbon City baller himself, he's co-hosted this show before, and he is
that guy's a total idiot.
He's not a total idiot.
Yeah, he's in the chat room.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, he is. Yes, Kevin Williamson in the chat room right now.
I saw it, Balky.
Yeah, I didn't even realize you saw it. So he's 5th place in the FFPC main event, rotoviz.com/podcast. You can check it out on the Blue Wire Podcast Network along with Apple Podcasts as well. It's posted on there. A lot of good stuff there as far as waivers, as far as start sits. Check that out. All right.
I actually will listen to that one.
After
my rude comment, I'm going to have to listen
good,
to it.
Perfect. Dave, I appreciate that. Thanks to Football Guys, Real World, and Rob for tonight's rundown. I want to kick this off with Keenan Allen tonight, Dave, because this is kind of flying under the radar. He was not spotted at the portion of practice open in the media today. I also found out he was listed as limited in practice today and officially listed as questionable for the 1 o'clock game against the Bears. He's going to be a game-time decision. If he does miss, you're looking at Mike Williams, Jeremy Davis, and Andre Patton at wide receiver. Obviously, Mike Williams is the only play there. You're not going to play Davis or Patton.
Hunter Henry's going to go 10 for 200 and 2 touchdowns.
And what about Austin Eckler? He could go, as the kids say, batshit crazy as well. So you're looking at those guys. I checked it. Keenan Allen, I have him in 3 leagues. I already have backups for him in all 3 leagues. It's basically like him or Corey Davis. So if Keenan Allen doesn't play, I get to play Corey Davis against the Tampa Bay secondary this week. So
not a bad
I'm
matchup
okay with that.
With a better quarterback, too.
I
think Corey Davis has a good game.
I think he does, too, with Tannehill. I think, with the 1 o'clock game, it gives you a little bit of an advantage. But for right now, even if he's active, Dave, I'm still a little leery about starting him, given that he's been at full sail the last few weeks, not listed on the injury report at all, and he hasn't done much. Well, and
I did see the news article. I know Wasp, I just mentioned limited staff, so
right.
I saw that as well. So I would not start Keenan Allen at all. I mean, the tea leaves are clearly being read. Do not start him.
Okay, so here's a perfect example. The one I just brought up. Let's say Keenan Allen is listed as active when the 11:30 rolls around. He's going to go for the Chargers. You have Corey Davis on your bench. Who are you playing, Corey Davis or Keenan Allen?
I might actually lean to Corey Davis. He's got a good matchup against a terrible secondary. And, it's one of those things with Keenan Allen. I mean, he hasn't been doing that great anyway. He's never been a huge touchdown scorer. For his career, he'd always get like 6 or 8 touchdowns in that neighborhood. And the Chargers are in disarray. They don't know what they're really doing. They're trying to give Gordon snaps. He's averaging 3.2 yards a carry. They're got a little bit of a mess going on over there.
All right, this is perfect. This is a good lead-in. I want to play our first Would You Rather in a long time.
Would you rather get a massage from a man or surgery from a female doctor?
Would you have sex with Cleveland if it meant you could have sex with Angelina Jolie?
Who would you rather do? What would you guys rather be? Who would you rather start a small business with?
Who would you rather have sex with?
Do you want breakfast or would you rather chew on your own ass as usual?
What?
What a great little drop there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. All right, Dave, you're looking at Keenan Allen against the Chargers or Robbie Anderson at Jacksonville. Assuming Allen's active, obviously.
I guess I'm starting. I would, like I kind of said, I don't think I would really feel comfortable starting Allen. So
I know. That's why I'm trying to go further down the list.
I guess I'm starting Robbie Anderson.
Okay, Robbie Anderson. Let's go further down the list here.
All right. Well, why do you got to do all this stuff?
Okay, here's another example.
You're a mean person.
A.J. Brown at home against Tampa.
Oh, God. Come on. This can't be your choice.
No, hold on. No, seriously. Because
I know Tampa's got a bad I guess I'm starting Keenan Allen, then.
Okay, you'd still go Keenan Allen. I'm going to skip those. You're obviously playing Mike Williams over Keenan Allen.
But here's a player I would actually start.
Go ahead.
I really am liking, and this is kind of a little bit of me doing a dynasty take on Preston Williams. I really like him in dynasty quite a bit.
I've noticed you've picked him up in a lot of dynasty leagues.
I have
lately.
picked him up. He's actually his first however many games he's had. What is it, 6 games, 7 games, whatever it's been.
Yep.
He's on pace to do about what Sammy Watkins did as a rookie. Now everyone forgets, Sammy Watkins had a hell of a rookie season.
He did.
Really great, and he was supposed to be this. He had a lot of injuries and so forth. But I mean, the type of season that Sammy Watt had as a rookie is like the best possible rookie season you can have. And Preston Williams is quietly under the radar, having a season like that with bad quarterback play, a team that's like a total wreck.
But that should feature him, given they want to see what they have in him.
Yeah, perhaps. But I mean, he's an undrafted rookie, but he would have been drafted had he had not had those off of the field issues.
Yep.
He would have been a first, second, third round pick, whatever, and he's playing great. I really think if you can get him in dynasty for a future second, absolutely do it. And I think people might be still willing to do that.
Non-dynasty.
But for this week, I would start Preston Williams over Keenan Allen. I actually think he's going to have a good game.
That's good knowledge. I appreciate that.
8 targets a game.
Rest of the way, redraft leagues. Who would you rather own, Preston Williams or Devontae Parker?
You know, I don't.
Because I got this question on a radio program on
I would
Thursday.
take Preston Williams. I don't think Devontae.
I said Parker.
I don't like Parker.
Okay, that's
I
fine. All right. Let's do two more here with this week in mind. Keenan Allen or Philip Dorsett at home against the Browns?
I'll take Dorsett.
Okay. Keenan Allen or Emmanuel Sanders making his 49ers debut at home against the Panthers?
They say he's going to be plenty active. I like Sanders. Sanders is a great ball player, and it's almost the same offense.
Dave, come on. You are not. Okay, let's do this one. Keenan Allen.
Whoever has Sanders ranked that low should have him higher.
Okay. Keenan Allen or Cole Beasley at home against the Wolf. Against the Woeful Eagles secondary.
I guess I'll take Allen.
You would take Allen over Beasley?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know, man. I might lean towards Beasley there, but that gives you an idea kind of where we're at on Keenan Allen right now, which is not in a good place. Speaking of not in a good place, Matt Ryan is questionable for Week 8 against the Seahawks. Dan Quinn said that Matt Ryan's status will be determined tomorrow, which is Saturday. Matt Ryan, if you'll know this, I don't know if you do, he has not missed a start in more than 10 years. Resumed practicing today after he sat out Wednesday and Thursday. Now, he does have an ankle sprain, although if it is too much for him, Matt Schaub is going to be ready to go for the Falcons. Dave?
Isn't it funny when you hear certain names, you're like, oh, damn, that dude's still playing in the NFL?
Still playing, yeah. No,
he's still collecting $1.8 million a year, whatever it is. What do you think Matt Schaub makes? Anyone, hey, chat room, take a guess. What do you think Matt Schaub makes?
I'm going to look that up right now.
I have no idea. I'm going to say $2.3 million. That's my guess.
I'm going to take the under on that.
Yeah, that's not a guess. That's an under-over.
No, I think you're right. 1.8 right away. Okay, I got it right here. In 2019, Matt Schaub will earn a base salary of $1.03 million and a signing bonus of $750,000.
Wow!
While carrying a cap hit of $1.405 million and a dead cap value of $1.78 million.
So he's right around $1.75 million.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, good for him.
It really is good for him. I hope he has a nice family.
The
makes a lot of money.
The backup quarterback is the new Loogie. Do you know what Loogie stands for, Dave?
I'm not
left-handed one-out guy in baseball. Yeah. So if you you know, it's funny.
More baseball talk.
Right, I'm going to talk about this.
Of the show.
My late grandfather, who died, God, he's been dead for over 30 years now.
Playing baseball.
He did not play baseball. My other grandfather played professional baseball, but grandfather
didn't die during it.
No, he didn't die. Well, he didn't die playing baseball. But when my middle brother, the middle brother in my family, he was the athlete, really good, really talented. He's a left-handed hitter and pitcher. My grandpa tried to hold his left hand behind his back when he was trying to make him right-handed. And now I look back on him man, you got to make your kid left-handed if you want to give him a career in baseball. That's where it's at. You know, if you can be a left-handed pitcher, you can pitch in the major leagues for 10-plus years easily. So that's where it's at right now. My question about Matt Ryan versus Matt Schaub, Dave, does it matter as far as Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Austin Hooper goes if Schaub starts versus Ryan for you this week?
Yeah, it matters a lot.
Okay, so what would you sit Calvin Ridley if Schaub plays as opposed to Ryan? Oh, Bulky, depends who else you have. But you'd be more likely to sit Ridley.
Probably, yeah. I would be less. I think they'd throw for 50 less yards on average, maybe 0.8 less touchdowns if I'm being David Dodd.
There is no way I can sit. I don't care if you're playing quarterback for the Falcons. There's no way I'm sitting Julio Jones or Austin Hooper this week. No way.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
Do you disagree with me though?
Yes. I think
so. There is a scenario for you where you would sit either.
If you're totally loaded at receiver, but I mean, keep in mind, even Julio Jones has 3 for 18 games.
He does.
Austin Hooper has 1 for 7 games, and it's much more likely that they happen with a crappy quarterback like Schaub, a statue. Now,
the Seattle defense is not good.
It's not terrible, but it's not.
Not terrible, but it's not good.
But I mean, Schaub could have a good game. The thing is, there's a ton of variance. There's more downside, definitely. Schaub could end up throwing the ball 15 times to Ridley for all we know, and then Julio gets a crappy game, or vice versa. I can't tell you what's going to happen.
That's fine. I understand.
There's so much less predictability. The last time Schaub played, or last few times he played, he didn't look that great.
Let's help out our listeners here a little bit. For all this, the questions I'm about to ask you, this would you rather, let's assume Matt Schaub is playing quarterback for the Falcons. You have Austin Hooper and T.J. Hawkinson against the Giants. Who are you playing?
I'm starting Hooper. Hawkinson is unreliable completely.
Okay. I'm going to skip that one. Let's move up to Austin Hooper against Seattle or Zach Ertz at Buffalo. Yeah.
Wait, what happened with Ertz?
I know.
Is he dead?
My co-host on my local show here in the Valley, Leo, I've told you, whatever he does, do the opposite. It has been a horrible year for him. He complains about Zach Ertz every week, and he's done very little.
I actually might start Hooper because of how bad Ertz has been, even though it's weird.
All right, here's a fun one. Would you rather play Austin Hooper or Hunter Henry at Chicago?
Henry for sure.
Okay, Henry for sure.
Henry's like a top 2 or 3 option with Allen probably out.
Right. Austin Hooper or Evan Engram at Detroit?
I haven't been following Engram that much. I can't give a good answer on that.
Okay, that's fine.
Who would? He's been kind of.
For me, I would still play Hooper.
He's not been very good.
He started off.
He's not performed.
He started off like gangbusters, looked like a top 3 tight end, got hurt, and now he's kind of working his way back.
And Daniel Jones is still to be determined.
You are playing Travis Kelce over Austin Hooper, I'm assuming, with Matt Schaub.
Yes.
And you are playing
Obviously.
The last one, Darren Waller. You're playing with him. You're playing him over Austin Hooper.
I try. Like John Terry said, both for a number of these. And these are top guys. I mean,
right. Well, that's why I'm trying to talk about players that you could have Hooper with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not going to have.
I mean, I would start Ertz and Hooper, Waller and Hooper, Kelce and Hooper, Engram and Hooper in a lot of situations.
Last one here. This is one that you could actually have. Austin Hooper or Gerald Everett at home against the Bengals.
I would start Hooper for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like Gerald Everett quite a bit this week.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Quite a bit. All right, couple more questions.
Fourth option in that offense?
Yeah, and he's still been crushing it. We're gonna get to our guest Rob Pfersich in a little bit. We got to talk about this Cardinals situation. Now, Cardinals GM Steve Keim said that David Johnson is going to be a game-time decision against New Orleans. We all know what happened last week. David Johnson was active. Chase Edmonds crushed it. Now, I don't know if this is gamesmanship, talking about with Steve Keim, trying to get the Saints to game plan for David Johnson. Not that that's a huge deal because Chase Edmonds was great. The Cardinals also signed Alfred Morris and Zach Zenner this week. Dave, what are you doing with Chase Edmonds and David Johnson this week?
I'm definitely benching David Johnson. He's not going to play. The fact that they signed Morris.
Even if he's active, you're benching David Johnson.
Yeah, after last week, yes.
Okay.
And if he has a great game, you know what? Whatever. Also, why the hell is a GM Steve Kerr out there making announcements?
Steve Keim, not Steve Kerr. He's the head coach of the Warriors.
He's also.
We don't want to get into that. But
Keim is, he's such a jackass. He really is.
Yeah.
He thinks he's like this amazing, great GM. No, not so good.
Right. Okay.
Isabella did have his breakout game last week. 2 for 8.
You like Chase Edmonds this week?
Yeah, a guy who had 3 touchdowns last week. Yeah, I like that guy.
One of my better Kentucky teams. You know who my starting backfield is this week?
Eckler and Edmonds?
No, Chase Edmonds and Ty Johnson. That's who I'm rolling with.
Sounds like fun.
And but my receivers are loaded. It's like Robert Woods, Hopkins, Edelman. Like it's really, really good there. So that's what I'm going to. Oh, wait, one more question before we get to Rob.
There's rumors about Drake going to the Lions.
There's been rumors about Drake going anywhere over the last month.
I'm just saying, if the Drake gets traded for like a 4th or 5th next week,
I love the Drake.
All that $500 in bid money on Ty Johnson's, and they go.
I don't mind that because you got to
smoking like a peace
pipe.
No,
you got to swing your sword when you can. I swung it this week. I picked up Ty Johnson in 3 leagues. I'm happy about it.
The references.
Adrian Peterson rushed 14 times for 76 yards last night in the Washington loss to the Minnesota Vikings. He also caught 2 balls for 27 yards. Dave, this is a guy who is dealing with a high ankle issue. He's 34 years old. He was jump cutting out there. I look at Adrian Peterson, who's now gone over 75 yards on the ground in 3 straight starts. This guy looks like a flex play for me going forward, even though Washington's offense is que terrible.
I agree with you. Peterson looks great. Frank Gore looks great. It's weird.
It's like 2004 all over again.
It's like 2018 all over again. Hall of Fame running backs that are old are still Hall of Fame running backs.
Right.
They're still pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, Gore and Peterson were guys to take in DE leagues at least, or best ball. And even in redraft late. I mean, those guys were decent pickups. They can, a guy like Frank Gore can help you in bye weeks, 10 points a game.
Adrian Peterson started last night 8th on the all-time rushing list. He has moved now into 6th after leapfrogging both Jerome Bettis and LaDainian Tomlinson last night. He is now 6th all-time. Congratulations to Adrian Peterson, and hopefully you got him on your roster. Let's get to tonight's guest. He's been very patient here. He's been drinking coffee in the basement for the last 4 hours, and he entered the FFPC for the first time last year, had a miserable year. He says he blames last year on his lack of pre-draft prep, neglecting to take the time to familiarize himself with the rules of the league like tight end premium. Yep, absolutely.
What the hell are all these tight ends going so early?
He realized after drafting the team, it was also a no-trade league, which obviously the Football Guys Players Championship
I took
is.
4 quarterbacks in the first 8 rounds.
I'm not saying he did that. So he chalks up last year to a learning experience. He says he's going to come back with a vengeance this year, and he definitely has. He's managed his only Football Guys Players Championship squad all the way up to second place in the quest for a $250,000 grand prize, numerous local leagues to his titles to his name, and a guy who's been very successful on the DFS circuit as well. Please welcome into the show tonight, Mr. Rob Pfersich. Rob, welcome into the show, man. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Friday night.
Thanks for having me, fellas. I appreciate it.
Well, you are very welcome. Glad to have you aboard. This is a fun time of year because we are coming up. We have 4 more weeks left in the Football Guys Players Championship regular season. Then we're into the league playoffs. Then we're into the fun part of it. And you look at your squad.
I know that
the only
because
squad
I went back and I checked the rules this year.
Just imagine how good you could have done last year had you known the rules. We might be talking to a 6-figure champion right now.
I was dead money from day one. I had no shot.
All right. Listen, you are
bad
not
preparation, but it is what it is.
There was no bad preparation on your part this year. You are not dead money from day one this year. We want to get into your fantasy team, but before we do that, can you tell us what you're doing for a living, Rob, when you are not crushing the Football Guys Players Championship?
I am a civil trial attorney. I'm licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and unfortunately that consumes a good deal of my time. We have a lot of successful players from that. I think they call it the tri-state area, Dave.
Oh, is that what they call it?
Yeah, I think they call it the tri-state area there.
You should play the lawyer music.
I don't have that anymore.
We used to have the LA Law.
Yeah, we used to have the LA Law. I don't know what happened to it. Rob got rid of it as we were trying to streamline the board here on the program. But that would have been great had we had that. In any event, Rob, it is good to have you. It's too bad that your day job takes up so much of your time. But Dave has a question for you about your only team in the Football Guys Players Championship here.
All right, so you're ahead of a ton of people here in this thing. Second place, it's amazing. Did you draft it any differently? I mean, did you take more risks than you normally would in, let's say, your local leagues, knowing that it's your only shot at $250,000?
Not really. I mean, I kind of had my pre-draft projections going in. I tend to try to stick to that the best I can. The scoring system is obviously a little different in the leagues that I typically play in. I learned that last year, as you guys are aware. But I pretty much try to stick to what I have and then read the board and go from there. But no, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I'm pretty confident in my projections by the time I'm drafting. This was actually the last league that I drafted for the season, so I was pretty familiar with ADP and landed the 11th spot and pretty much stuck to my guns on my projections.
Yeah,
of the 11th spot.
Yeah, I know.
I thought it was impossible.
Well,
I was reading on Twitter it's impossible to do well.
Well, not only that, Dave, but we've been bucking the trend as far because we've had a lot of guests on this year who have been doing very, very well, drafting not only from the back end of the draft, but drafting in May, drafting in early June.
This is all fake news.
This
couldn't be possible. You have to have the 1 or the 2 pick.
You have to have the 1 or the 2 pick in September. And this is, we're having people who drafted early on. Now, not the case tonight, but Rob is the case where you had the 11 pick, and you definitely did a lot with it, more so than a lot of teams have this year. I feel like we've talked about Austin Ekeler every single week, and I think it gets more and more compelling as the season goes on because people are expecting a flip here, and the flip simply hasn't happened, Rob. The 602 selection for you in this Football Guys League was Ekeler. Now, with Melvin Gordon back, Austin Ekeler seems like he's been outperforming him. Is he the guy that you'd rather start? Because a lot of teams, in fact, Dave's Kentucky auction team, he has both Ekeler and Melvin Gordon. Are you still playing Ekeler over Gordon when it comes down to it?
Ekeler over Gordon, I think either of them are playable at this point. I'm always been a fan of Ekeler. I mean, I think the kid can just flat out ball. Every time he's been given the opportunity, he stepped up and he's delivered. And you've seen that through last year. He was a complimentary player. You saw that obviously the first couple weeks this year. And frankly, I think he's just a better overall fit for that particular offense than Gordon is. You saw what happened at the end of the game last week. That was a different scenario. I think you put Eckler back in there. Unfortunately, that touchdown got reversed, which didn't really affect the outcome of my game. But I think it's pretty evident that he's an excellent fit there. And if Gordon does move on or he gets moved to another one option, I think he could definitely be a feature back in the league. I've always been a fan of Gordon. Or excuse me, guys.
Yeah, no, and of Eckler, yeah, and it's interesting too because Eckler had the touchdown called back. Then what happens? Melvin Gordon fumbles when he has the opportunity to score. So I think that's sort of a microcosm what we're looking at for Eckler and Melvin Gordon. Dave,
Isn't that just desserts for them?
Far be it from me. It is just desserts. Far be it from me to start a rumor here, Dave.
Oh boy.
But I would not be shocked if the 2-5, I believe they're 2-5, Chargers move Melvin Gordon prior to the trade deadline, and Austin Eckler is the man in the backfield in Los Angeles going forward. And you could really, he could be a league winner, quite frankly. We'll see.
That sounds like something people say
is
on
that breaking news?
Never happened.
It's not breaking news.
It
is definitely, listen, I start rumors all the time. But this is not one that is started by me. We'll see what happens with Melvin Gordon going forward. But if he does get moved, Baltimore Ravens, we'll see what happens as far as the Chargers go with Austin Eckler. Dave, go ahead.
All right, so currently you have Tyrell Williams on your bench in this league. He's back to practice. The Raiders don't have a whole lot of receiver. And
the cupboard is bare.
You know what? Maybe people don't know this. People say that Tyrell Williams is the number 22 wide receiver on a points-per-game basis this season. That's actually pretty good, averaging 15.65 points a game. So you have a choice. You could look at Tyrell Williams or Royce Freeman, who's been coming on and looking pretty good as well. What are you thinking?
This week in particular, I'm probably going to stick with Freeman just to see how Williams comes back. I mean, coming back off plantar fasciitis, I think it's something you want to test the waters a little bit before I throw him back in there. And I was actually kind of high on Freeman coming into the season, and you're starting to see that an equal share of carries or distribution there in that Denver offense. Williams, be honest with you, I kind of took a flyer on him before. I wouldn't say a flyer, but at the time, the whole Antonio Brown fiasco, and he exceeded my expectations the first couple of weeks. But I'll probably keep him on the bench this week, and then see how he performs and go from there.
I look at a lot of the rankings out there, a lot of the pundits who, weigh in on this type of stuff. They're very down on Tyrell Williams this week, despite Oakland not having a lot of options, despite Tyrell Williams resuming practice this week. So I have him on my bench in a lot of leagues this week. I actually, I only own Royce Freeman in one league this year, and I like his matchup this week. I will start him. But that is one of the leagues, Dave, that we talked about at the top of the show where I have Keenan Allen, where if he does sit, then I'll play Royce Freeman. And quite frankly, even if he doesn't, I'll probably play Royce Freeman given the load that I expect both those guys to get.
Well, Freeman's is a less risky play because he's going to get carries no matter what. His base is his worst game possible is maybe 7 points. Tyrell Williams could have a 0. It is possible. Just to throw some numbers out there.
Sure.
Football Guys has Royce Freeman at 13.1 PPR points and Tyrell Williams at 10.4. So
interesting.
They favor, our good friend David Dodds favors Royce Freeman in this particular situation.
Wash guy chiming in. He wants to know if Tyrell Williams is a good wide receiver 3. No, he is not a good wide receiver 3. If he's active, he might make a decent one, but I'm not loving him this week. He's on the bench in most of my leagues. We're talking with Rob Pfersich. This is like the 4th week in a row we've had the runner-up, the second-place team in the Football Guys Players Championship. So we've had a lot of talented players
on. The teams in first are too scared to come on.
No, honestly, you want to know why the teams in first have not come on? Because they've already come on because they were the second-place team.
Oh, right.
And then they move up to first. So we'll see if that happens with Rob this week.
Nice. Well, it would be better if it happened after week 11 for Rob.
Yeah, exactly.
There's regular season. Hey, Rob, did you read that there's regular season prizes?
I did, yes. I like I said, I studied the rules meticulously this year.
He's well aware.
Learning mistakes.
Right, he's well aware. Yeah.
And it's not like $200,000, but maybe like $5-10 grand or something.
Yeah,
like
it's something for sure. You're holding on to Darius Geis here, Rob. When does he get removed from IR by the Redskins? And when he does get taken off IR, Is he a top 15 running back given what we've seen what Adrian Peterson has done behind this line? Or is at best, is he a flex play going forward given the matchups and given the offense he's playing under?
Well, not holding on to him. I actually just picked him up off the waiver wire this week. Saw him lingering out there. I thought it was a good, grab and stash. I think I view him as a flex option as best going forward with high upside. Obviously, he was high ranked coming into the season, and fortunately, I was in a position to. I had a good bulk of. I think I only used like 20-some hours of my free agent bidding, so I had a good deal of that left, and I saw an opportunity and I grabbed him. So he's just kind of a stash guy on the bench for now. But to answer your question, yeah, I think he's more of a flex guy going forward. I don't think he's going to quite reach, given the state of the Washington offense, I don't think he's going to be that top 15 guy that everybody projected coming into the season.
I own him in one dynasty league. I've had the opportunity to sell high on him 3 times. As I stated, I am not a good dynasty player, as I've held on to him every chance I've gotten. When he comes back and tops 80 yards rushing in a game for the first time, you make me an offer because I will basically sell him for whatever at that point. I am convinced that my knees, which ache every time I go running, are healthier than Darius Geis's at this point.
It's because you're overtraining.
It's not because I'm overtraining. And Darius Geis is, you talk about overtraining, the wear and tear on his knee after these surgeries and all the stress he's put under it since LSU. I am not a fan of him. I need to get rid of him.
He's a buster.
I don't like him.
You never know. He might come back and be all right the rest
of the year.
Okay,
that's great. I hope he is, and I hope it works. Hope it works out for the next dynasty team he's on in my league because it will not be mine. A lot of news in New England, Dave, this week.
Yeah, so they, phantom IR Josh Gordon. Who knows what the heck that deal is? But Gordon's going to probably sign with some other team pretty soon. Mohamed Sanu is now a Patriot. They have a second-round pick, which is insane. But anyway.
You thought that was an overpay by New England.
Yeah. By a lot.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Anyway, Jacoby Myers, he's one of your bench wideouts, but he looks so great in preseason. He's one of those guys, like you kind of said about Eckler. I think he can just go out and ball. Do you think that this really negates Jacoby Myers and the New England's plans for receiver? Also, N'Keal Harry kind of may not be coming back off that IR.
Yep.
Yeah, he was another guy. Like you said, he looked spectacular in the preseason. Obviously, he had a great collegiate career at NC State. I think, if I remember correctly, I think in senior year, I think he may have even broke Torrey Holt's single-season record. Emerging slot target. The whole thing with that New England offense, obviously Brady has historically spread the ball around. You never know where it's going to go. But if he trusts the guy, he's going to deliver the ball to him. And so far, so good. He stepped up. He's been given the opportunity. We don't know what we're going to see yet with N'Keal Harry. Obviously, they invested a high draft pick on him. But, with Belichick and Brady, you've seen over the years, if you give them the opportunity and they deliver, it doesn't matter whether you're undrafted, whether you're a first-round pick, whether you come in as a premier guy like Josh Gordon. You catch the ball, you step up, they're going to give you the opportunity to shine. And so far, he's done that. Obviously, for me, I'm not too thrilled about the fact that Sanu's coming in. That's kind of going to muddy the waters a little bit, but we'll see what happens with him. I certainly don't mind stashing him on the bench for now and see what happens. And this was at the time when I drafted him. This is again not to be redundant, but before this whole Antonio Brown fiasco, I didn't see that he was going to be pushed down even further down the depth chart. But what I've seen the last couple of weeks, I'm pretty pleased with.
Dave, I know I've asked you this every time it seems like we talk about Josh Gordon with a guest, but do you own Josh Gordon in any of your dynasty leagues yet?
Sadly, yes, too.
And what are you doing with him? Are you hanging on to him to see what happens, or are you cutting bait?
I'm not cutting him yet. I'm just hanging on.
Seeing what happens? Okay.
Yeah, he's an albatross. He's one of those guys on the team that I just can't stand. But who knows? I'll give him one last shot. The worst thing could possibly happen is he signs with some team and then starts being good again. That's the worst. You hold on to the guy this long, and it's the whole sunk cost fallacy. But hey, you know what? My cost is sunk, and so is my team. I'm going to hang on to him for another couple of weeks.
They have. I've seen Titanic. Sometimes they hire these salvage companies to raise these sunk costs out of the ocean, and they become pretty valuable again.
The girl lived at the end too.
She did live.
Just because Leo died, she's all right.
Yeah, she's dead now, but yes. The actress, at least. Yeah, Gloria Stewart died a few years ago.
No, I was talking about the Well,
Rose DeWitt Bukater.
version.
Yeah, she's dead too. There's no way she's still alive. No, so the other thing I wanted to point out with Josh Gordon, this was something that the Football Guys podcast actually brought to the surface. Mike Reese, who is the ESPN Patriots reporter, a lot of times these beat reporters, Dave, they have stuff to say to like they know stuff, but they can't exactly report that stuff, so they find different ways of reporting it. Cecil Lammey, Sigmund Bloom called it Lassie barks, where you're talking about certain things without talking about them. And Mike Reese actually tweeted out after Josh Gordon got cut. He said, "This guy works his tail off in practice. I saw him on a fumble by one of his teammates run his tail off to try to chase him down. Doesn't seem like he was cut for football reasons." So you kind of read between the lines of that tweet, a guy who's so close to the team, maybe there's something else going on. Maybe there's something behind the scenes that we're not privy to. I don't know, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but maybe there is something there. You never know. So that was the Patriots situation at wide receiver. No, I'm not saying he's going to fail any tests. No, I'm not insinuating that. I'm just I'm saying that there could be something behind the scenes that we don't know about. That was the scene in New England.
Sure.
You would love it, wouldn't you? Alshon Jeffrey, Josh Gordon, that'd be perfect, Rob.
100%.
That was the situation in New England with the receivers this week. Mohamed Sanu becoming a New England Patriot this week. Let's talk about San Francisco because they made a deal with Denver to acquire Emmanuel Sanders. So you look at who they have now there, Deebo Samuel, Marquise Goodwin, Dante Pettis, and now Emmanuel Sanders enters the fray. Obviously, we know George Kittle is probably the number one pass-catching option. Who's the number one wideout for you right now, Rob, in San Francisco? Is it Emmanuel Sanders or is it somebody else who's already there?
I mean, you kind of got to look at Kittle as a tight end / wide receiver. He's obviously clearly going to be the number one option there. I think they definitely have a talented young core there, a lot of young guys, but nobody's really emerged. I think Deebo Samuel will eventually claim that role. Unlikely to be this year, though. I think we've seen some flashes. I've always kind of been a fan of Emmanuel Sanders. I think he's shown that he's fully recovered from that Achilles injury last year, and he's clearly still has something in the tank. So by default, I would say, yeah, he's probably going to be the number one. Considering they do have a run-heavy offense, I would temper my expectations. But it's obviously, I think the move is obviously going to be beneficial to him going forward. I would see him as a wide receiver 2/3 going forward, potentially a solid flex.
Speaking of trades, I didn't realize this week, but Gary Conley got roasted by Gary Conley got roasted by the afterthoughts in the Packers receiving core this past week. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Jake Kummerow, they absolutely toasted Gary Conley, who was a corner for the Raiders. The Raiders traded him this week, Dave, to the Houston Texans. Guess who the Houston Texans play this week? You guessed it, the Oakland Raiders. So they traded him to the guy that they're going to be playing against. If there's ever an indictment of a player's skill ability, we're seeing this now with Gary Conley. Start all your Texans this week. I'm playing Kiki QT in a couple of weeks, or in a couple of leagues as well, to see what happens there. You look at Deebo Samuel. We just heard what Rob said. Dave, if you're in a dynasty league and somebody offers you an early second-round 2020 pick for Deebo Samuel right now, are you taking that, or would you rather have Samuel?
With this coming draft class, I'd rather have the pick.
The pick, okay. All right, fair enough.
I was never all that high on Samuel. He didn't have a high phenom score. I don't know. Just wasn't my guy.
The other thing to keep in mind with Sanders is, and we'll probably see some more trades, come through before Tuesday's trade deadline. Remember, these teams that are acquiring these veterans, while it seems like they might be giving up a lot, if these guys leave in free agency, you're looking at compensatory picks for these players too. So there is something there that these teams could be recouping there.
I was going to say, back to the Sanders trade is that's the front office saying they're not happy with their wide receivers. Whether that's an indictment of Dante Pettis, it is, or an indictment of Deebo Samuel, it might be. I don't know. But for sure it's Dante Pettis. But Deebo Samuel, it's not the best.
Where I was reading somewhere, somebody said, "Oh, Marquise Goodwin is a good long-term solution in San Francisco, but maybe not in the immediate." He's like 28.
He sucks, man.
He's not young either. He's not good.
When has he ever been good? I mean, just because he got drafted in the 3rd and 4th round 1 year, he sucked.
No, he did have a good 2/3 of a season.
Yeah, he had 8 good games at the end of a season. When Garoppolo started.
Yes, and people are remembering that.
5 games.
I cut him in a lot of leagues this week. Well, we saw Fantasy Mojo's tweet. There was a ton of people in FFPC leagues this week cutting Goodwin, Pettis, and Samuel in redraft leagues. No question. Now, there's a certain tight end that a lot of people would say.
Every week too.
Yeah, that's another good point.
Right,
absolutely, it seems that way. Not necessarily concussion, but maybe performance-based, Dave. The tight end in Tampa, O.J. Howard. This is a guy that has clearly underperformed this year, and we know he is not playing this week. So now that we know,
I would bench him for sure.
I know you would bench him, but your question for Rob here: who's the next guy up in Tampa, and is he fantasy worthy?
Yeah, so they don't seem to use tight ends much in this offense, but is it O.J. Howard or is the Harvard grad Cameron Brate?
Did he go to Harvard?
Yeah, I think so. They went to somewhere good.
Okay.
Anyway, Cameron Brate, the Ivy League attendee, is he a good start this week, do you think?
A good start? I think he started bowl. I don't know that I would consider him a good start. And you hit the nail on the head. I mean, this offense, the scheme just doesn't really utilize the tight end, and I don't know if that's because of Howard or just the new scheme in general. I'd put him in the top 15 this week. Obviously, there's some chemistry there with Jameis. He seems to, at least historically, has favored him in the red zone. But I'm not totally convinced that the tight end position is a focal point under the new Bruce Arians scheme. Clearly, everything's being ran through Godwin and Evans. They dominate the target share of the passes. I believe it's somewhere around 65 to 67% to wide receivers. And last time I thought I looked at this the other day. I think there's going into this week, I think there's been 34 total targets to tight ends combined by Tampa Bay. So I wouldn't necessarily consider him a good start, but if you're desperate, why not?
Yeah, and there's going to be Witten owners that have him on bye. There's going to be Mark Andrews owners that have him on bye. Delaney Walker has already been ruled out this week against Tennessee. So if you are desperate, he's a guy that you can look to with Cameron Brate. But, I mean, I think it's Evans and Godwin there going forward, and we'll see what happens, no question. By the way, Dave, Cameron Brate did go to Harvard. And I will bring this up, on the Harvard tip. I was doing the afternoon show today, the show with Leo and Balky, which you can hear on 95.9 and 99.1.
I'm sure Rob really cares.
In Appleton, Oshkosh. Rob can listen to it on the app, the Score WI app, which you can download at Google Play or the App Store on iOS. And we were talking about Old School. Remember the movie Old School, Will Ferrell, Jeremy Piven? Yeah. So we were talking about what was the fictional college that took place at in that movie. And so I literally Googled, what was the college in the movie Old School? And you know what Google said? Harvard.
Not really.
Clearly it was not Harvard. It was Harrison University was the name of it.
Nice.
But I did find out that they shot that movie at some high school in L.A., UCLA, USC, and Harvard.
Hey, Rob, what was the name of the college in the movie Revenge of the Nerds?
Do you remember that? Rob, did you ever see that movie?
Of course I did. I don't remember the name of the college. No, I
remember both.
I saw the movie. I don't remember the name of the college either.
It was the Adams
Adams
College, and they were the team was the Adams, ATOMS. Must have been a STEM.
Oh, like a science, some sort of science university.
Yes, Adam, as in like.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Adams
College.
Yeah, I'm sure they recruited the high-profile athletes there. No question. Yeah. Rob, listen, a couple of emails that came in for you this week. This is from Bill in Moraga, California. Not sure if what their college is located there. He writes, help me out this week. John Brown at home against the Eagles or DJ Chark hosting the Jets. I already have Hopkins, Godwin, and Kupp in my lineup. Thanks, Rob. That is Bill in Moraga, California. We get emails like this, and I feel like it's just people who want to brag about how awesome their team is. So he clearly is not sitting Hopkins, Godwin, or Kupp this week. He can only play one of two, either John Brown against Philly or DJ Chark at home against the Jaguars. Which one would you start, Rob?
Bad question for me. I'm going to be biased as an Eagles fan, obviously. But, I think you got to go John Brown there.
So you're not biased?
Well,
right?
I'm biased,
you're an
but
Eagles
if you want me
fan,
to be honest, I'm going to say John Brown.
I like it.
Yeah,
Dave, what,
Do Eagles fans watch the movie Invincible every Sunday?
yeah, have you ever seen Invincible,
Like
Rob?
50 times? 50 times, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. I love that.
That was a good flick, for sure. By the way, I found out
I
that
actually
his kid,
watched
Vince
it during
Papale-
the second half of the Sunday night game last week.
of the Cowboys. Yeah, that
That's
was,
how bad the game
you know
was,
what,
right?
that is time well spent for Eagles fans, no question. I just saw that Vince Papale's kid, I think, is playing college football somewhere.
Oh, really? In real life?
Yeah,
Nice.
in real life,
Oh,
yeah.
good for him.
IRL, as the kids say.
Yeah.
Dave, do you agree with that? Start John Brown over DJ Chark this week if you can only play one of them? John Brown against Philly, DJ Chark against the Jets?
Oh, sure, I can see that. Yeah. That sounds good.
I-
John Brown's a top. He's been really playing well.
I love John Brown this week quite a bit. I like DJ Chark. Well, here's it is. I like DJ Chark, but I love John Brown, so I'm playing John Brown over DJ Chark. All right, Marty in Red Springs, North Carolina is up for you next, Rob. I know the another Eagles question. I know the Eagles are not playing their best brand of football right now. Besides Ertz, is there anyone I can trust from that squad in my Football Guys lineups? That is Marty in Red Springs, North Carolina. Sort of a hodgepodge at running back. Obviously, Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard back there. And then you still have Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey on this squad, Dallas Goedert for a tight end premium league. Is there anybody else that you're trotting out in your lineups this week, in tight end premium lineups, Rob, besides Zach Ertz for Philly?
I mean, I drafted Goddard. I haven't started him yet. I don't think that this would be the week to do so. At the moment, and at least until Deshaun Jackson returns, I don't really see a consistent option other than Ertz, who's obviously underwhelmed so far to date. So I'm going to say no.
Dave, you agree with that? You're not playing. Well, maybe you're playing some Eagles, but you're not trusting him. Is Ertz the only guy that's trustworthy right now in this lineup or on this team?
Yeah, I mean Alshon, I guess a little bit, but I'd really be looking not to play Alshon, especially this week.
Yeah. That Buffalo
This
defense
is definitely
is
not
underrated.
the week
Good.
Yeah.
He's not. He's not a separating type guy. He's just kind of slow.
He's a savvy vet at this point in his career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, does Amari Cooper commit offensive pass interference on every route he runs?
Really? Do you think he does?
It sure seems like it.
How many?
Like every damn route.
Hold on, Rob. How many OPIs did Amari Cooper get away with against Philly on Sunday night?
Like 20.
In the first half, I counted 4, and then I was watching Invincible for the second half, so I can't really comment on that.
Exactly. This is crazy. This guy pushes us every time, and then he gets called like about 20% of the time.
Do some of the wide receivers get the LeBron James, Michael Jordan superstar treatment in the NFL?
Yeah, and Cooper's really not that great. I mean, he's good, but he's
right.
not like LeBron.
Well, who gets away with it then? Because Beckham doesn't. Julio Jones doesn't.
Cooper might be the one who does it the most, though.
Maybe it's just Alabama guys. They don't call OPI. They don't call holding.
You know why Julio doesn't do it? It's because he gets open because he's awesome.
Yeah, he is awesome.
He runs a 4.35 40 and he just gets open.
Didn't Julio Jones go to Alabama? Am I misremembering that?
He did.
Rob, where did Julio Jones go to school? Alabama. There you go. Yeah.
Why the hell is it Rob's job to know where Julio went to?
Well, because Rob is way smarter than you or I will ever be. In fact, on that note, Dave, let's ask him one final question before we let him go and enjoy his weekend.
All right,
tonight.
this is for redraft. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Rob. We need a player, fantasy player that FFPC owners should be starting. Should be starting, but they're not currently. It's a sleeper. And we also need someone that they would, it's an obvious start, but really not someone they should be starting. They want to bench that player. This is really, I didn't ask that.
That's all right. I think Rob gets the gist of it.
A guy that should be benched, that should be started, and vice versa.
Right. Basically, a guy that a lot of FFPC players will start that you don't think should be starting, and then conversely, a lot of guys that will be on their bench that you think should be started.
Which one you want first? I'll go with the
whatever you want.
All right. Let me see here. I'm going to say this week in particular. And I don't know that it's much of a surprise, but Derrick Henry, I mean, a matchup against Tampa Bay, obviously a tough matchup. They got the number one run defense in the league, only letting up about less than 70 yards per game. Defense coming off a bye. It's going to be a pace-up game for Tennessee, depending on which version of Jameis shows up. If Tampa Bay jumps out to an early lead, Tennessee could be playing from behind, and they've shown an emphasis, at least in the past couple of weeks since Tannehill's taken over, to get the ball to A.J. Brown and Corey Davis. And Tannehill's actually looked pretty decent the past couple of weeks. So if you have another option, I would sit Derrick Henry this week.
Nice. I like it. What about a sleeper?
Sleeper, I have two. Anthony Miller, it's a deep sleeper if you're desperate, but the last couple of weeks you saw an increased target share. He's had 8 total targets through week 4, 16 over the last 2 weeks. The offense is desperate for a consistent number 2 option, and I see him potentially emerging as that number 2 option. The other one's pretty obvious. I'm not going to give much commentary on it, but Kenny Stills, obviously with Will Fuller out, he's going to spread the field against the Raiders defense. And I think he's going to be a solid start if you have him available. And the other one also is going to come from Tennessee. We talked about some of the fade. I think Jonnu Smith, I mean, the kid's going to be given an opportunity. I don't know what the status is on Delaney Walker. He's questionable. He's unlikely to play as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the kid's shown some talent. I think he's got the skill set. He's got the size to be a solid tight end in the league. He showed flashes of that last year before he got hurt. But Delaney's career winding down, I think Tennessee's going to see what they have in this kid, and he may get more opportunities and packages inserted if that's the case. They like to target the tight end quite a bit, about 23% in the season, but I suspect that may dip depending on what happens with Tannehill. But he hasn't looked too bad again, so I think as far as a deep sleeper, somebody you may want to pick up going forward would be Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, so a few things to unpack here. Yeah, I have a lot to say about this. Number one, I can tell you a few hours ago, the Titans officially ruled Delaney Walker out this week. So it is the Jonnu Smith show, as you pointed out, Rob. And I remember last year there was one spot start that Jonnu Smith made for Delaney Walker, and he put up a 0.0. Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son. And that is what Jonnu Smith did last year. However, in Delaney Walker's stead this year, when Walker has not been playing well or he's been playing hurt, Jonnu Smith actually looked pretty good. And the fact that he goes up against a Tampa Bay defense, which you pointed out is very stingy against the run this year, maybe Derrick Henry you want to second guess. You don't want to second guess Jonnu Smith this week. I think he is a great flex start in tight end premium leagues, and I am starting Kenny Stills literally in all my leagues this week. I love him. I think he's going to crush it. Oakland just traded maybe their best corner, who was terrible to begin with, to Houston, and they're going to be depleted in that secondary. So I think Hopkins and Kenny Stills have a field day. We'll see about Kiki QT, but I think it is going to be Hopkins and Stills, no question, for Houston this week. So I love the Jonnu Smith call. Love the Derrick Henry call. Love the Kenny Smith call, no question. A lot of great stuff there from you, Rob. Thank you so much for popping on tonight. We really appreciate you joining the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Second place in the Football Guys Players Championship going forward. Best of luck to you in that league and in all your leagues. I know your local leagues, one of them, you told me offline, you're still looking for that elusive championship there. So you could win $20,000 this year and still be looking for a title in that other league. Best of luck to you in all your leagues, though, Rob.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Rob Pfersich, thank you so much. Popping on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour tonight. You can check out his team going forward in the Football Guys Players Championship. Dave, you look a little confused right now.
Well, I'm a little perplexed. Delaney Walker in 2018 played one game. He scored 9.2 points in week 1. That's it.
And he missed the rest of the season?
Yeah.
And what did Jonnu Smith do?
Oh, jack crap.
Okay, so you don't like Jonnu Smith this week.
I'm just looking at 2018. So after week 1, when Walker played,
right?
Jonnu Smith had a 0, 1.9, a 0, a 0, a 2.2, a 3.1 bye week, 11.3, 13.5, 10.4, 14.3. A nice.
Is this FFPC scoring or no?
That's regular PPR.
Okay.
Whatever. Grant me that. A nice 4-week run, mediocre. A 4.9 is 0, and then he missed the last 2 games. So he had an all right run for 4 games, and then maybe he got hurt or whatever. And I'm not saying he's going to be terrible, but I mean, it's not like I remember Jonnu Smith last year, and I got so pissed because I was thinking the same thing.
You thought the sky was the limit. Yeah.
I thought the same thing you're talking about right now was going to happen, and it did not. But I like his talent. I'm just kind of wondering. I don't understand why he did so poorly last year.
Aunt Jemima and Waskai pointing out in the chat room right now, we probably should have mentioned him. Jared Cook has already been ruled out this week for New Orleans, which means Josh Hill will be the starting tight end for the Saints. Yeah.
Do we have a bet coming on?
Do we?
Yeah.
I don't know if we do.
I think they wanted to bet us. What was the total, guys? Was it 11 or is it 10?
I'd take under 11 for sure.
Well, they say greater than 11. All right, that's it.
So Josh Hill at home against Arizona, who may be the worst covering defense for tight ends this year.
You know, I looked on Player Profiler, Josh Hill's player profile, not too shabby.
It's
although he didn't even make mock draftable, he's such a loser.
David,
undrafted.
Is it a balloon knot? Is that what we're looking at for his
what?
A balloon knot. You know what I'm talking about.
I don't know that I do.
When you're looking at his the chart.
Yeah, they don't have him on mock draftable. He's a no-show.
What is that? A player profiler? What one has that? You know what I'm talking about?
Mock
draftable, yeah.
It's a big thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not. He's not on there.
So it's non-existent.
He's not. They don't have a profile.
Okay,
he's undrafted.
All right, so it's not even a balloon knot.
All right. I guess we negotiated up to 11 with John Terry.
All right, so here's...
All right, 11 is fine.
So Dave and I have Josh Hill, Week 8 against the Cardinals, under 11. We got 5 on it.
We got 5 on it at half PPR scoring. All right, but...
Aunt Jemima and
it's FFPC.
Hudson Kern-Reeve have over 11 in FFPC scoring. We all got 5 on it.
Currently, we are even. No one knows.
We are, yeah. We lost on that AP bet. So it's under 11... You getting this, Rob? Perfect.
I spoke with Rob today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I just spoke with him now.
He's doing well.
Good.
Thanks,
I'm glad
Rob.
to hear it.
Nice to talk to you.
All right.
For once.
Let's get into emails here. We got 5 minutes left in the show. That's enough to pound out a few emails here. Brad in Chicago. Hey, guys. I loved game night a couple of weeks ago. Wondering if Dizzle can tell me. Now, are you listening? You got to listen closely.
All right, I'll listen now.
What real-life pair of teammates these stats match up for?
All right,
okay.
Teammates, gotcha.
Player A, 29 catches, 436 receiving yards,
wow,
212 routes run. Okay.
All right.
Player B, 25 catches, 439 receiving yards, 210 routes run. They are real-life teammates, Dave. What receiving tandem, is this in the NFL? 29 catches, 436 yards, 212 routes run, 25 catches, 439 yards, and 210 routes run. He writes, good luck, Dave. That is Brad in Chicago. Brad, thanks for the email. We certainly appreciate it. I have corroborated this. This is actually in, I'm assuming Brad read Bill Barnwell from ESPN. He had a great article this week on some eye-catching stats around the NFL. This was one of them. I'm assuming you got this from there.
So
Dave,
it's real-life teammates.
These guys are teammates in real life. Can you tell me which teammates these are? Any guesses? This is a tough one because they're fairly close together, right?
Yeah, they're fairly close together. They're averaging pretty good yards per catch. So this
pretty good yards. This is
I have a guess.
Go
I
ahead.
have no idea how close this
will
be.
All right.
Because they've had really disparate seasons so far.
Sure.
I'm going to go Will Fuller and Hopkins.
That is incorrect.
Damn it.
But you are actually kind of close in the fact that Hopkins was drafted way earlier than Will Fuller, and their real-life production is actually much closer than where they were drafted. Player A also...
In fantasy or real life?
In fantasy this year. One of these guys was drafted way above the other guy.
Sure.
Player A also has a 56% catch rate, 11 air yards per target. Player B, 54% catch rate, 10 air yards per target.
So 20.
And I can tell you, to narrow this down, I'm going to have this for you, Dave. They are in the same conference as Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins. That's the AFC.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just making.
I'm looking at.
I'm surprised the chat room has not
per game here.
I thought the chat room would be piping in with their guesses here. But nothing so far from anyone. This is a tough one.
I'm trying to run through different teams in the
No,
AFC.
that's fine. I get it. I'll tell you this: they are not in the same division as Hopkins and Fuller, if that helps out. But they are in the same conference. And neither one. This may not help at all, but they were not drafted. The team they currently play for, the team did not draft either of these guys. They acquired them both in trades. That might be giving it away, but maybe not.
They didn't draft either player.
They didn't draft either player. They acquired them both in trades. I know, it's tough, right?
All right, this is a crazy, weird guess, but I'm going to try it. Well, No, he did. They did draft him. Okay.
Well, who was your guess there?
It doesn't matter.
Oh,
It's wrong.
well, I mean, I could give you a hint if you missed on it.
These aren't as much fun, Balky, when they're
Really?
hard.
You can't think of a good receiving tandem? I'll tell you this. The first guy was a slam dunk first or second round pick. The other guy slipped to probably like the 5th, 6th round, if I'm guessing, in FFPC leagues, right? Don't look at the chat because Aunt Jemima just got it right. He figured it out.
Okay. I have no fucking idea. I hate these.
Should I just
games.
tell you?
Yeah.
All right. Aunt Jemima got it. It is Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry for the Browns, Dave. Stats very identical so far this season.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I think this brings up the question, like, maybe I should be starting Jarvis Landry more often than I have been so far, given his stats are pretty close to Odell Beckham's.
But they're really not that great.
You don't think they're that great?
Not
Over
really.
Yeah, I guess over 6 weeks, 25 catches. He's basically averaging what?
I mean, they're not terrible. I mean,
4 for 70. I mean, I don't know what touchdowns look like between these guys this year, but that's what we're looking at there.
Wonderful.
Okay, so good job, Aunt Jemima. Let's move on. And thank you for the email, Brad in Chicago. Dear HSFFers, help me out in my lineup this week. Curtis Samuel at San Francisco or Jarvis Landry at New England. That is Matt in Rome, Texas. Thank you for the email,
God, that's tough,
Matt. Yeah, neither one's great. You would think that Stephon Gilmore would probably be on Odell Beckham this week, though, for New England, right? And they would probably try to take out Beckham. Would you, if you were Bill Belichick, we always talk about how Bill Belichick wants to take out your best offensive playmaker. Would you try to take out Beckham or Nick Chubb? Probably Nick Chubb, right?
Yeah, I might lean towards Chubb, actually. He's not all that.
So who would you play between Curtis Samuel and Jarvis Landry this week if you can only play one?
It's pretty close, actually. But I feel like the Panthers have a better shot of making a solid game on the road. They're on the road at San Fran.
They are on the road, yes.
I feel like that game could be more of a game where where they have a competitive game. It could go over. I mean, it could go under as well. Of course, it could be one of those like 17-10 games.
Right. Yep.
But with Cleveland, there's a chance that they just get shellacked. I mean, they could have a good game too, but it's just. And by the way, New England's been playing against really bad quarterbacks. So
they have been. Yes.
Their defense. I don't know. I don't want to call
Seeing
it.
Ghosts.
I don't want to call it a mirage, but I mean they have a lot much better quarterbacks coming up. But Mayfield hasn't been playing all that great either.
No, he has not.
So I'm a little scared of playing against the Patriots defense. So I think I'm going to go with Samuel.
Who would you rather have the rest of the season, Gardner Minshew or Baker Mayfield?
I don't really know. I'd probably still go Mayfield.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if this changes it at all, Dave, but the Panthers are 5.5-point dogs at San Francisco with a total of 42 in that game. Cleveland is a 12-point underdog at New England, total of 45. Does that change it at all for you, or no? Still sticking?
Not really. I mean, that means
Okay.
there's going to be more garbage time. But a lot of times, likely to be more garbage time for Cleveland. But, sometimes that garbage time is just a bunch of 3-and-outs where then
That's true.
Then New England runs the ball away.
All right, Paul in Baltimore. Let's go to him. Perhaps I'm overthinking it, but do you guys like Greg Olsen in San Francisco or Gerald Everett at home against the Bengals? Dankeschön. That is Paul in Baltimore. Who would have thought it? A German living in Baltimore. I didn't know that was possible. So who do you like better this
Germans
week?
live all over.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Baltimore is a. Well, I guess it's not a hub for Germans. There's probably some living there. I don't really think of it. It's like whatever.
What do you think? It's just like The Wire?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
whole town is like.
I don't think
it's
of
all a bunch of like crackheads
how many
in Baltimore.
how many guys
You
named
got to fill that stadium, that field.
how many guys named Sean McManus live in Harlem? Probably not that many.
What do they all live in South Boston?
Yes.
They all live in Southie.
Yeah. How many Sidney Applebaums are living in Mobile, Alabama? Not a whole lot.
They all live in New York.
They all live in New York. Absolutely.
Hey, Mr. Feinstein.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, Greg Olsen against the Niners, Gerald Everett against the Bengals. Who do you like this week? I'll tell you this: if I owned both of them, I would play Everett this week over Olsen.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna start Olsen.
You would still play Olsen.
Yeah, I mean he's I don't know. It's
tough matchup against San Francisco with Kyle Allen throwing him the rock.
It is. You're right.
What would you do?
I could see going Everett, but I mean again, I look at you still have Brandon Cooks, Woods, and
Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
What? Just curious.
And Gurley too once in a while.
Right. As a side question, what would you do if you owned Cam Newton right now? Would you be cutting bait on him? Would you be keeping him around?
I'd be picking him up if he was.
You'd be picking him up. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Kyle Allen's going to lose this week, and then it'd be like, oh, my God, Kyle Allen lost. Wow, that's too bad.
What about Drew Brees?
Yeah, I'd pick him up, too.
Okay.
If he could. I mean, he should be rostered, hopefully.
He's not rostered in one of our mutual Kentucky leagues, I can tell you that.
Oh, in the auction?
Yeah, because we cut him. Several weeks ago. And you know who's been...
we still got 57 minutes till those waivers.
And you know who's been crushing it for us in that league?
Who?
The guy who leads the NFL in passing touchdowns per game.
Okay.
Any guesses on who that is? We didn't draft him.
I don't even care.
Jacoby Brissett is leading the NFL in pass touchdowns per game. He's been great for us. Yeah. All right, final email tonight. Dennis in Saginaw, Michigan. Tough call for me at Flex in Week 8, and you guys are the tiebreaker. Royce Freeman or Shady? Thank you for the email. Dennis in Saginaw, Michigan. I've been to Saginaw before. Lovely town. Royce Freeman, Dave, this week is a pretty good start, actually, as he is facing the Indianapolis Colts in the Mile High City. LaShawn McCoy is at home against the Green Bay Football Packers on Sunday Night Football. You can only play one. Who's it going to be, Freeman or McCoy?
I'm going to start Freeman. I'm just trying to look him up right now. Royce Freeman.
While you look him up, I can tell you that I have this decision to make in one of my leagues, and I am currently starting Freeman over McCoy.
Yeah, so Freeman right now is running back. This is kind of what I suspected. He's running back 21. Averaging,
on the season?
Yeah.
Holy cow, I didn't realize
averaging
that.
11.5 points a game, and he's never had a game below 7.1 points, and that was week 1. So,
right.
And again, not that that's great. Shady McCoy, comparatively, is he's running back 25, averaging 10.8 points a game. But that is he did have a 23-point game in his low game. You'll see he had a 5-point game, a 4-point game, and another 6-point game. So there's more of a variance with Shady. So I think I trust Freeman more just to be more of a consistent player.
Let me give a hot take to end the program tonight. LaShawn McCoy's fantasy value in Week 8 goes up with Matt Moore at quarterback versus Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. And we know Patrick Mahomes is already missing the game.
Yeah, I get your point where you're saying they're going to rely on him more and so forth.
So it's a hot take, Dave.
Damian Williams is still there.
Right. As is Darryl.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I get it.
But you're still playing Freeman.
Yeah, but they're also less likely to score points. They're also less likely to get a pass interference in the end zone. They're less likely to be in the red zone as often because Matt Moore, who didn't look that good in relief. Now, granted, he'll have a whole week of practice.
And more than a whole week because they played on Thursday.
There you go, 9 days or whatever it is.
Right.
He'll probably do all right. You know, it's the Packers, right? They're playing the Packers.
Yeah.
Packers defense is pretty all right. It's
pretty all right.
It's pretty decent.
Wasp guy in the chat. Damian still in the shadows behind Shady. Man, that's a lot of noir going on there in the Chiefs backfield. All right, so good stuff tonight from everybody.
What a bad pick Damian Williams turned out to be.
Yeah, he really was. You know what's funny is in a couple of my dynasty leagues, I had an early pick, and I was so thankful for these guys that were taking Damian Williams at the 102 and 103. So I could draft guys like N'Keal Harry, who's been on IR all season. So
yeah, he'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, I wouldn't take him over a great player like Preston Williams.
There you go. Would you trade N'Keal Harry for Preston Williams straight up right now in Dynasty?
If I owned Harry?
If you own Harry and somebody's like, I'll give you Preston Williams right now.
No, I would not.
Okay. Because Harry should be coming off IR pretty quick.
I still got to go with pedigree. I do like Harry quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
I hate to say this, but I might actually have to let go of Isabella for Preston Williams.
I have been the only.
Even though Isabella broke out for 2 for 8 last week.
I own Andy Isabella in several dynasty leagues, and literally the only reason I am hanging on to him is because of you.
He's fine. He's coming around, Balky.
Do you know that you and I have a season-long bet and I got 5 on it this season that Baker Mayfield will not be a top 10 quarterback.
You
said he would be. I said he wouldn't be.
Oh crap.
We said that Kyler Murray would not be a top 15 quarterback.
I said he would be.
You said he would be, so that's looking good. But you also said Andy Isabella would be a top 40 wide receiver.
Well, we got time.
Which is not looking great.
We got plenty of time.
You do have time, but you got to start making that hay, man. Because
technically, right now, he's a wide receiver.
That's debatable too. That is debatable.
Just barely.
Yeah, just barely a wide
receiver.
He's an NFL player, and we'll leave it at that. Hey, thanks so much for tuning
Working
in.
on the jugs machine.
Yes, he needs to do that. Does he own a jugs machine?
Yeah, he bought it.
Yeah, there you go.
I think he must have run out of batteries or something.
Thanks for tuning in tonight, everybody. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a Friday night. Thanks to Rob Pfersich, Dave Gerzak, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you. Next week, the fifth-place team in the Football Guys Players Championship, Billy McKinney, will join us right here on these airwaves to talk about his team. Very excited to talk to him, pick his brain. Remember, Kevin Williamson on the High Stakes Lowdown right now, rotoviz.com/podcast, on Apple Podcasts, on the Blue Wire Podcast Network as well. Check that out. It is a scorcher. Thanks for hanging out in the chat room, everybody. Good luck in Week 8. Hopefully the ball bounces your way.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. That was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
We're on the seamless floor, even more so if we on tour. Me and E explore the country, wondering about the evening before. Trying to explain where the time went, while other rappers find a studio to grind in.
I'm starting to see a pattern with these bets that we're making with Aunt Jemima and Wasp Guy. It's all these fringe fantasy guys. It was Paris Campbell, followed by Adrian Peterson,
Well, it's all the
followed
guys,
by Josh Hill.
It's fun for them because it's all the guys they pick up off waivers to start over their guys on bye.
I'm
So like they picked up a bunch of Josh Hill, so it's kind of fun for them.
I'm smelling a Ryan Tannehill bet coming up in our future.
Yeah, it could be.
You know what's funny about that is you probably dealt with the same thing because I know you own a lot of Lamar Jackson. I picked up a lot of Gardner Minshew and Ryan Tannehill this week.
Really?
For Lamar Jackson, yeah.
For whatever reason, I was covered in a lot of those leagues. I had either like Murray or somebody else. I didn't even pick anyone up.
Woe is you.
I'm just saying I had another player. That doesn't mean they're good. It could be like Andy Dalton or somebody who sucks.
Right. Dave Gerzak's the man. That's what I tell people.
I'm just saying I don't have, doesn't mean anything.
The problem is, like, if I have Lamar Jackson, I literally I don't carry a backup. That's it. You know what I mean? So then I had to scramble this week. We'll get into this off air. I don't want to talk about it on air. But we'll see what happens this week. I love Tannehill. I love Minshew. Good luck to everybody this week. Thanks for listening.